Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to a new Q&A episode. It is that time of the month in which I answer to as many questions as I can that you guys leave me in the comment sections of this video, and not only, just in the comment section in general. If I see a question that I think will benefit, if I answer it on video, I'll answer it. So without further ado, this video together with this entire series is sponsored by rePotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchid, from orchid potting mixes to pots, fertilizers, accessories, and everything in between. And not only for orchids, but also for other houseplants as well. So I'll link you to their website down below in the description. Feel free to check them out at any time. And I'll also share with you the products that I personally use and I really enjoy for quite a number of years now. Like, gosh, some are like 8 years already. I'm using the MSU for the past 8 years at this point. Very good fertilizer. All right, so with that said, I'm gonna try to get to as many as possible, but you know how these videos are, they tend to drag, but I will try to go for it really fast. Right. So, first question, advice please. So I separated a mum fowl from 2 keikis and they're doing well, but they've all grown a keiki on the side of them. I also have another fowl that made a keiki. Aren't they rare? Because mine all love to make keikis. Are they stressed? They don't seem stressed, and I have a watering schedule or fertilizer schedule and repotting. They also seem to like their positions in the house. Am I lucky or am I doing something wrong? Well, I would say you're lucky. Just because you're getting keikis doesn't necessarily mean you're doing something bad. There are multiple reasons that can contribute. First of all, the genetics of your orchids. Some orchids are just more prone to producing keikis. Phalaenopsis equestris and some of its hybrids are very prone to producing keikis. You might also have extended growing periods, let's say. You are more likely to get keikis in the warm season than in the cool season. Cooler temperatures usually promote flower spikes, while warmer temperatures promote vegetative growth. A keiki is vegetative growth. My orchids produce keikis mostly in the summertime, and sometimes they produce a lot of keikis as well because I have an extended summertime. It's very hot, so it might have to do with your environment, who knows. As long as you don't see anything wrong with the crowns, like pests or damage in the crown, everything is okay. One of the first reasons an orchid produces a keiki, especially basil keikis, is when the crown is not necessarily dead, but it's affected by something. I got a lot of my keikis when I have thrips, but you would see the signs. You would see the munched leaves and all of those things. So if you don't see signs of pests, you're good. You don't have to worry about anything. Just look at your orchid. If you don't see anything at all wrong with it, then why would there be anything wrong with it? A question from It's Me, Cheryl. When I buy a new orchid and they seem very dry, I place the plant, pot and all, into a bowl and soak for about 10 minutes. Then let it drain. I also do this when I water them as needed. Is that a good idea? Thanks for all you do. Most likely it is a splendid idea. Soaking your orchid not only gives the opportunity for that water to get in all of the air pockets of the bark, if your orchid is potted in bark, but also it allows enough time for some of the built-up minerals to dissolve. Things like calcium, they dissolve very slow. That's why it deposits. It's very hard to dissolve calcium and lime scale and things of the sorts. But the more your orchid sits in water, the more that tiny built-up has time to get dissolved. It's not enough to flush them. Whenever people flush for salts, I'm like, I really, if you feel okay with flushing, flush. I don't think it's enough. I just don't. No, the main cause of buildup is calcium and magnesium, not so much nitrogen, to be fully honest. So in order for those minerals to loosen, I would suggest soaking, not just running some water through the pot. I don't know if running water through the pot does anything. I'll show you. I'm sorry to make this like parenthesis, but let me show you something. Okay, I have this Cattleya orchid here. Do you see all of that whiteness? That is not from me. It's not from my tap water. I do believe this is from the bark. This is a different type of bark that I used here. I don't know. Maybe it's my tap water, but I have a lot of calcium deposits here. The mere fact that I just run water through this pot, which I do every time I water, to some extent, it's not enough to dissolve. I would have to seriously soak this orchid. And maybe then this deposit will go away. Other than that, it's not going away quite at all. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. It's just my opinion and it can be very, very wrong. I think flushing is a placebo. I never flush. If you want to properly like dissolve some accumulations, at least I would say soak 10-15 minutes and then flush the pot. Getting back to the question, is that a good idea? Yes, I think so. As long as your orchids do have enough time to dry, like within a week or so, it's fine. With soaking, you do kind of, you know, make the pot and the mixture retain more water because you allow it to go into the structures of the bark. So if it works out with your watering schedule, it's absolutely fine. Just make sure that it works out in the winter as well, because sometimes, you know, we need to adapt our watering depending on the season. The next question is again from It's Me Cheryl. I'm gonna make a resume out of the question. So it is about a Miltonia, I'm guessing Miltoniopsis, I don't know. It's a Miltonia orchid and it is potted in a plastic pot without ventilation holes. Is it okay to let it be there and not repot it, even though, you know, it's not in an adequate pot? Yeah, it can be. Listen, the adequate pot is not necessarily something universal. You can have the safer option with extra ventilation pots, holes, but it's not necessarily the most adequate. It depends on environment. For me, extra ventilation is not needed. I can use it just, you know, to be extra safe, but I personally can get away with no ventilation, just the drainage, because it's just so hot and dry here in my environment. But obviously, it just has to do with environment. So it really depends. It's absolutely fine if you leave it in that pot for a while until maybe the flowers get spent or you see new roots growing. And especially if it's Miltoniopsis, wait for the new roots to grow. They're fussy orchids. Depending on your environment, that pot can be absolutely fine for them. You can pot them in whatever pot you like best, that's fine, but it doesn't really mean you have to pot it right away. I don't want the root system to be too wet. Well, you'll have to gauge that. If the orchid stays wet for more than 7 days, that's a little concerning. It's just, you know, a rule to start with. Sometimes it can stay moist for 10, but sometimes it might be too much. Depends again on the environment. So just monitor it for now. You don't need to do anything. It's always a good idea to repot new orchids because that medium is already old most of the times, but it doesn't mean you have to repot it right away unless you have really good reasons to, unless you think the roots are rotting or things of the sorts. Other than that, observe it first. If indeed it stays moist until Christmas, repot it. Next question from Julie. Oh gosh, sprayed my orchid with neem oil and all my orchids, all my leaves turned yellow and the plants look like they're dying. What do I do? Okay, this was a question left on a very old video of mine. It was me trying neem oil for the first time. It was 11 years ago. You might know that neem oil is the preferred substance for, I don't know, the preferred substance, right? I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It smells like onion and I feel like I wanna, you know, every time I sense it, and it doesn't do a good job. I learned that through experience. 11 years ago, I was just trying it out. So first and foremost, guys, please check the date of my videos. Obviously, some will be like, yeah, I'm trying this because people are saying to try it and look, this is how I used it. If they're 11 years old or 12 years old videos almost at this point, maybe look for updates. It's hard to like go back and like make those videos hidden or something. I don't even know if I want to do that because I do want them to be there in my archive. But guys, if it's an old video, look for updates or ask me if it's still valid what I'm saying there, because in these 11 years I tried neem oil multiple times, and I'm talking about the good neem oil, not the one that like the proper viscous one, right? It's not good enough for me. It doesn't do anything for pests for me. It's not good enough. So one of the things that you can do with vegetable oils, neem oil is a vegetable oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, olive oil, whatever other oils naturalistic plant growers like to use, they're heavy. They're extremely heavy. If you're not careful, you can actually block stomatas and suffocate your orchids, especially if you spray on the underside. Hence why for the past 5 years at this point, I switched to paraffin oil, which is a mineral oil, it is much lighter. And I do have videos on the subject and how I treat. Sometimes I just go with a little bit of leaf shine, which is based on paraffin oil, and just spot treat. But usually I use my DIY horticultural oil solution. It's DIY because in my area we don't find horticultural oils, so I have to improvise. But if in your area you find horticultural oils based on mineral oil, that's what I would go with. They're formulated so that they don't really suffocate. And always when you try something new, try with one leaf or one orchid first and see how it does, and then spray the entire collection. So I did reply to my viewer, but I wanted to mention this for those of you that might watch and might be tempted to try things that I tried 11 years ago at this point. Maybe not, maybe ask me first. It's an old video. Like, if you see the quality is trash, it's an old video. Don't necessarily follow it. That's more like history, archive for me. It's not, this is what you should do, right? I realized I didn't actually answer the question. Well, there's nothing to do. If the leaves are yellowed, they're done, they're gone. You cannot reverse the process. However, keep in mind, never overuse neem oil again. Maybe never use neem oil again. That's one. And second, try to shower your orchids and hopefully some of that oil will fall off. But yeah, sorry, I don't think there's anything you can do right now. If they're yellowing and falling, they're done. You cannot rejuvenate them. Sorry. Right, next up. Hello Danny, thank you so much for your detailed information. Please tell me if I can use fertilizer 13315 for my mini Cattleya orchid. If not, what do you recommend? So first of all, 13315 looks like an absolutely okay fertilizer. If it's not an orchid intended fertilizer, which I'm guessing it's not, you gotta be careful with that dosage. It might be a citrus fertilizer for all I know, and they tell you to use a certain amount that is okay for citrus trees. For orchids, it might not be okay. Orchids generally, compared to other plants, are not really that heavy feeders. Some are, some maybe are not. So the problem with other types of fertilizers is the dosage. I don't know how much you should dose of this. I don't know if the instructions on the label are okay for orchids. First, try a diluted form of it, like, I don't know, cut in quarters, what they recommend, and use a quarter, and then try it and see how it does. But if it were up to me, really, I would just recommend you an orchid fertilizer, orchid intended fertilizer. There are other things to think about. Some fertilizers contain urea or other nitrogen sources that maybe are not the best for orchids, because orchids are epiphytic, you know? I don't know. Sometimes these fertilizers that are meant for other plants might be very acidic. Is it a fertilizer for azaleas? I don't know. Does it have something that further acidifies it? You don't know. So I would be a little wary about that, and my personal recommendation is to just go for an orchid fertilizer. But if you are keen on using this fertilizer, use a dilute version of it, maybe on one orchid first, and see how it does. If everything is okay, then everything is okay. But if it's not, then definitely don't use it on other orchids. Next up, Bonnie is saying, my Denphal, which is Dendrobium phalaenopsis, has black spots on its leaves. What is it? Again, it's hard to know without pictures, but I would go ahead and guess it is either spider mite infestation, either a pest infestation. Dendrobiums, generally speaking, are pest magnets, and whenever I had spots on my dendrobiums, I either had spider mites or thrips. Pretty much. Look on the underside. If you see grazing and whitish-ish things, mostly grazing, you have a pest infestation. I would go ahead and say that you might have some pest infestation. If not, make sure that you don't leave water on the leaves, especially if you grow your orchid in a home that is not properly ventilated. You don't open the windows, so you let like wind make that water evaporate. It might be water left on the leaves, which has accumulated some fungus, and it's a fungal infection at this point, or a bacterial infection at this point. Hard to see or hard to know without a picture, but yeah, think about these scenarios and hopefully one of them applies. And obviously, if it's just the water issue, don't splash water on your dendrobium. Inside growing, it's not like outside growing. Or even if you're growing them outside, maybe there's something in the air this time of the year that just, creates some fungal spots. It can happen. Roses get a lot of like fungal spots as well in some parts of the world during this season, right? So many variables. I don't know where you live. I don't know what the situation is. So I hope these ideas will work out. Because I don't really have much information to work with. Next question from Gabby. Would it be okay to cut spikes before they form to have the orchid focus on vegetative growth? Yes, absolutely. You can definitely do that. If your orchid needs to grow vegetatively, if it's stressed, if it has been rootless recently, you know, there are some instances in which your orchid just should not bloom. You can totally cut the flower spikes and it's gonna be absolutely fine. Flower spikes are not vital organs for orchids. They're nice for us, and you know, they serve as reproductive organs, but it's not vital for the individual. If your orchid needs to recover, cut those flower spikes. You can definitely have other flower spikes in the future. Next up, a comment from Duke Hell. I'm officially a serial killer. Oh no, my climate is very hot and humid. Tropical. Sphagnum moss is not working here. Only bark, I can see that. I lost another orchid due to stem rot. I did watch all the videos on stem rot and root rot yet. Oh, I did or I did not. Sorry. Yet, because I can't do the setup, I can't rescue any orchid. I do spray the roots to promote root growth. I do not water them from the top. Please, can you help? Thanks for your videos. I really appreciate them. All right, you don't have to do sphagnum moss setups and stuff to help root rot orchids or stem rot orchids. Now, when it comes to stem rot, I'll be the first to admit I don't have a nice, elegant solution for stem rot. It is a difficult thing to work with, especially if it's on a phalaenopsis, because you don't know where the entry point is, you don't know what's affected, you don't know what to cut. You cut the wrong thing, it's done anyway. If it's a dendrobium, you can cut the cane, that's fine. So depending on the orchid, with stem rot, I'm not the person to help you. I don't know if there is a person to help you. Some might claim they are. I have doubts. Stem rot, nasty thing. Root rot, however, there we can work with your orchid because we can work with different types of setups. So, hot and humid. Lava rock. Try lava rock. I think it will do good. I know people in hot and humid climates that do grow orchids in lava rock and they're doing splendid. Also, maybe charcoal. If you find it in your area, horticultural charcoal, that could be a solution. Both of these materials do not promote fungus and things of the sort, so you should be good there. You don't have to rely on sphagnum moss just because I like it. You know, I like it because it's quite the opposite here. It's hot and dry. So let's switch up the setups. Let's get something that is really not so water retentive. You can also consider mounting your orchids if you don't have a problem watering them that often. And that should severely reduce the risk of root rot. So first, start with the setup. That's the most important thing. Start with the setup and then the problems will slowly go away. As for the orchids that you already have sick or rootless, again, you don't need sphagnum moss to make them grow. As you said, you are spraying often to promote root growth. That is absolutely fine. Keep doing that. And it is trial and error. It is trial and error. It's good that you do not water them from the top. And I should think that you just need to start with different types of setups that will not lead your orchids to have root rot. The ones that already have root rot, I think you're doing already what you can for them. Just spraying the roots that are growing. Make sure that the water is not high in salts and you don't use fertilizer, at least for now. And yeah, that's the best you can do. Just manually spray there other than, you know, having sphagnum moss. I think though a setup change will make things a lot better for you. Next up, a comment from Patricia. Hi Danny, hope you're well. My tap water is pH 7.5. Should I use my pH down acid to lower the pH every time I water my orchids, or how often should I use my pH down? Thanks. Actually, 7.5 pH sounds dandy to me. I come from a pH of 8.2. 7.5 is not that bad. I will again assume that you're growing your orchids in a organic setup, bark, moss, things of the sorts. When you're working with these materials, you don't need to worry about the pH of your water because these are acidic materials and they will drag the pH of whatever water is left in the pot after you water. They will drag it really fast. to their pH level. The tannins, you know, the sphagnum moss especially, it's more acidic. Don't even worry about pH down at this point. If you're using leca or other things that are inert, do you want to bother with pH down? If you want to bother, you can. You can even do a trial and water an orchid or a few orchids with non-pH down water and then some orchids with pH down water. I would not fuss with that, sincerely. I would not, especially if you have Cattleyas and Phalaenopsis. Don't even worry about pH down. I'm not about making your life more complicated than it should be. Meh, no, I would not use anything. You can experiment and trial though, it's fun. Next question from Wanda. Hi Danny, your grow room is looking so good. Where are Maya and Joey living in your home? Okay, I put this one here because I wanted to address it. Sadly, Maya and Joey are not with me. They're with a friend right now. I don't know if I will have them back because I cannot take care of them right now. So a little parenthesis, and I think this will be the last question that I take for this session. I wanted to address this in a video. Let's address it now. The house that we bought and we moved in, it's not the house we planned. We planned a different house. But then, you see, life doesn't work like you want it to work. And what other people do in the world affect you somehow. So we were unable to build our dream house, which accounted for my greenhouse, my pets, all of that. My husband's things as well. So we had to make a compromise that would still work and we could still afford. And we got this house, which I'm not complaining about. It's wonderful, but it does not have the space. Now, Maya and Joey do not fit in the room. I cannot allocate space for them safely in the house. They don't have enough space. It's not adequate. Outside, again, it's not a solution for them because if they go above 30 degrees Celsius, they suffer. They're not outdoor birds for this area, at least. I go to 45 degrees Celsius. I would stress them so much if I had like an aviary outside. Not something I wanted to do. So the best solution for them for now is to sit where they are. I can visit them at any time. And if somehow I can have them again in the future, I will. I can get them. But for now, they're not with me and it's a little heartbreaking. But I kind of got used to the idea. Yeah, I wish I could have had them with me, but I don't. It's not safe and it's not okay for many reasons to have them. The only space I have for them is outside, which is not okay, not a good life for them. So I'd rather have them sit in air conditioning and, have them be together than have them be with me. They don't even care about me. They care about each other. They're a pair. And have them in much less than ideal conditions. That's how life works sometimes, and it is what it is. So yeah, Maya and Joey are not with me right now, so you're not gonna hear them too much. Who knows, maybe you're gonna hear Birdie, which is my parrot. So yeah, that's the story with Maya and Joey, and this is where we're gonna end today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you didn't hear me answer your question today, don't worry, I still have a lot of them. I got a little anxious. Talking about Maya and Joey. Right, so I have a lot of questions to go through. Don't worry, I'll get to them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was useful for you. Thank you, rePotme, for sponsoring yet another video. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.